Hi, everybody.
Oh, hi, Amanda.
Hi, how are you?
Great, how are you?
I'm well, thank you so much for asking, Frank. Frank,
Yes, Amanda.
guess what we're doing today?
We're eating pizza.
No.
Oh, man, we're getting back rubs.
I wish. No,
No?
we're doing something perhaps even more impressive and awesome.
What's that?
We're discussing The Incredibles 2 with some of our good friends here in the podcast booth. Look around, you can see them.
Holy, wait a minute. Where did you guys come from?
Well, hey, friends.
Holy
Hey, Frank.
cow.
Hey, I'm glad we introed this like a.
Like a Barney episode?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Kids
like, like a
show.
puppet show?
Who ordered the rub down?
Oh, no.
Me?
Tiny Toons after
the
dark.
host, Trevor.
All right, this will be great. You know what I can't wait is to hang out with Chris Lord.
I've got
Wait.
bad news. Bad news to you, Frank.
What do you mean?
Chris is going to be here. He prioritized another podcast over us.
No, let's not
Son
say
of a-
that.
He would
Let's
never
say
do
he was
that.
preoccupied with other things.
Let's say that, sure.
Yes.
Yeah, he's preoccupied with other things. He's got family stuff going on, work stuff going on.
So much stuff.
He's got a lot of stuff going on.
He's the Hollywood kid now.
Who
yeah,
does he think he is that he cannot come to this podcast?
he's quite a big
Acting
deal.
like Elastigirl.
Yeah.
Just like all of a sudden he's top town in New Urbum.
Yep.
kind of a big deal. Wait, a good tie in there, Trevor. Let's get rolling. We're talking about The
Ba-ba-boom.
Incredibles 2.
Yeah.
So we got a lot to talk about. We got a lot of opinions, I'm sure, on it.
I have so many opinions.
So many opinions. And we got to introduce everybody. But before we do, we have to do all of these guys' very favorite segment in the entire world.
That's right, Amanda. It's time for us to sing.
It's our improvised theme song with, we got a little large group here today. It's going to be great.
I can't wait. Should we do it?
Let's do it.
All right. I stretch.
And I bend.
I run real fast and I'm super young.
And I got kids and a career. And I'm doing it all because I'm the mama of the Incredibles.
I generate force fields and have trouble with boys.
And I've got dark hair and someone else sings now.
Wait, everybody. Where is my super suit?
Frozone takes care of the kids.
Jack Jack.
Edna.
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 Oh, we're gonna have a good time together.
Jack Jack.
Edna.
Jack Jack.
Edna.
We got all these characters and more. Looking at the movie Incredibles 2. It's a Pixar feature. We're talking about it today with the Novice
And Frank.
and
Tim Talk.
The podcast of two worlds.
Wow, that was amazing. Well, I don't think we even need to talk about the movie now.
No, you guys got
We
the
done,
wrap
we
up.
done.
It should be mentioned that historically in these crossovers, Chris Lord has been very reticent in indulging in these.
That's true, but we've put him on the spot, and he's risen to the occasion several times.
Well, I'm spending this entire podcast slamming Chris Lord whenever I have the opportunity.
I was going
Fine.
to say, like, not to slam Chris Lord, but that was the best song we've ever had, and he's not here, and he's always harping on how he doesn't like it.
You guys just have some lovely voices.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
you're welcome.
Cameron especially. Like, I think Chris is aware that you have an angelic voice, and he's hiding it.
Guys, I'm really not used to not being the one being shit on in the podcast. And it's so refreshing.
I never shit on you guys, but Trevor jumped in and took it. Let's see. So that was great. I'm Amanda. I'm the novice of the Novice and Frank,
I'm Frank. I'm the Frank of Novice and Frank.
and we're doing another one of our epic crossovers here. Did we decide what are we? Six.
Sinister Six, we'll
The
go with that for
Sinister
now.
Six. Let's say that we're that
Until
today.
the Venom movie.
Yeah. Then we'll change it up to something else.
We're doing a crossover with some of our other amazing BFFs in the podcast world. We do, of course, have Tim Talk, and we have the podcast Two Worlds. You guys want to introduce yourselves individually?
I'm Trevor.
And I am Chris Fimbres.
Both of the podcast Two Worlds, and our representative from Tim Talk today.
Yeah, I'm Cameron Dexter.
Yeah.
I'm here without my partner Chris Lord, and it feels very lonely.
Well, let's all give him a collective boo.
Boo!
That's for you, Chris Lord. How dare you?
Way to be supportive, guys.
Leaving Mr. Incredible here without his co-host.
Yeah, you know, it's pretty normal now.
Well, all right. I want to just, before we get into the movie proper, Cameron wearing an awesome shirt of the Mr. Incredible's original costume.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I like that design so much more than the Incredibles.
Me too. I like all the retro designs more. I mean, I guess it's just the two, but
Yes.
because Frozen
never
never
changes.
changed.
Can I pose a question that I kind of felt I didn't realize? Like, Did you want Violet and Dash to have individual costumes the same way at the end of the movie?
That would have been really cool.
Yep.
But I feel like it wouldn't have fit the story.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like I don't know.
Because
it's
also the early story or the early part of the story, the first act story was
Yeah.
them
literally
the-
the end of last movie.
Well, I was gonna say it's having them choose if they want to be supers or not,
Okay,
or
yeah,
heroes or not.
yeah.
So I feel like they would get their suits when they make that decision.
Mm.
Yeah. That's a good call because it's all branding. It's personal, right?
Yeah.
All we know is no capes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And we know that there's more than one superhero
costume
fashion
designer, which is very cool.
Do you think there's a supervillain fashion designer as well,
Probably.
or is it the same person?
I mean, I don't know.
It's
I guess
probably
that-
Gamby, right?
Yeah, doesn't he do both for heroes and villains?
Yeah. He's at least in DC, he is. He do both heroes and villains, but he's also a creep. So you know.
I mean, I guess you have fashion designers in our reality that they make clothes and then they can't truly control who wears them.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Cops
So
or convicts.
yeah, exactly. Cops or convicts. That's
Well,
right.
I mean, like these are like specialty designers, though. This is like designing like a Met Gala
What?
dress.
Galbani.
Yeah, well, and I guess that at least like if you're like Anna Wintour, who has said outright like that there are people that are not invited to the Met Gala who are very famous that she goes out of her way to not invite.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess if one of them went to her and was like, "Would you design me a gown?" she could be like, "Hell no."
Yeah,
Did she say
So-
why? Is because she doesn't think they have the fashion sense to pull off something?
because
spectacular?
there's some more. and
Because
she's-
sometimes because they're terrible. Like they asked her. She was on oh gosh, it was Colbert. She was on the late night show with Colbert, and he said, "Is there anyone? Can you tell me like who's not invited?" Because someone was telling him that they hadn't been invited, and she's like, "Oh, well, that's we can invite them or whatever." And he's like, "Who doesn't get invited?" She said, "Trump. He'll never be invited back." Like there's like so she makes some decisions on who and who is not invited. So I like to think that maybe Edna's like that too. If she doesn't want to design for you, then she
Wait.
won't.
Is Edith Head is the original designer?
Yes,
She's-
Edith Head is the original. She designed for most
Yeah.
of Hitchcock's films, and
Oh,
Frank
really?
knows a little bit about this.
Amanda knows more.
She's the most award-winningest person. Actually,
Yeah.
she's won more Oscars than anybody else.
Think of
Wow.
her like the Meryl Streep of fashion design.
You should.
That's
Yes.
awesome.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
did not
There
know
you go.
that.
Yep, Edith Head.
Nominated for like 35 Academy Awards, and she won 8 of them.
Mhm.
And then when they were still awarding individual Oscars for color and black and white,
Oh,
she won.
She swept.
Yep, she swept it for both color and black and white
Wow.
in 1 year.
nice. Wow,
That's awesome.
That's very impressive.
And she wore big glasses, just like Edna.
We
Mhm.
we have a
Fashion
book at my store where it's an Edith Head book, and you can just see it. You're just like, that's Edna Mode that I'm
That's
looking
cool.
at right now.
Yeah.
But like, I don't want to sound like I'm talking shit about the rest of the movie, but
Uh-huh.
that
Oh.
was my favorite scene.
She stole the
The
movie.
Edna
all day long.
and Jack,
Yeah,
literally
Edna
I
Jack
love
Jack.
their mirroring down
Yes.
the hallway.
Jack.
Yes.
That was my favorite scene of the whole
Mm.
movie. Just Jack with his
lollipop.
lollipop like it's a cigarette or whatever. Was
Just
hel-
gesturing.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
that like it was stuff like that that kept me invested in this movie because it was weird because the story basically ends where The Incredibles ended.
Mhm.
Mm.
That they're a family who are going to fight crime together, and that's where The Incredibles 1 ended. And then in this one, we have a whole movie of them re-explaining, like almost like people's critique of Guardians 2. It was just like retreading the exact same, like putting these people back into the exact same plot that they were in last time, just with the added knowledge of the last movie.
I'd
And-
agree, because the only thing this got me more excited was to see Incredibles 3, when they're now in a world where they don't have to worry about the legal ramifications of superheroes. You can just now tell a really cool superhero
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
Do you think that part of that was just because there was so much downtime between films that they felt like they had to kind of reintroduce the world?
I don't think so.
No.
Well, Amanda and I had a nice, pleasant evening of drinks before the podcast,
We
and
did?
I was
Oh.
saying that something that I'm realizing is I'm kind of not. Although I realized this exception in our walk over
Mhm.
Back to the Future, I'm not a fan of films picking up immediately where they left off.
And I asked Trevor, well, what about Thor Ragnarok? Well, spoiler alert, everybody. I guess this isn't really one.
Yeah, we
Uh,
2 episodes ago.
It's 2 episodes, so many episodes ago. But Thor Ragnarok leading or Infinity War leading.
No,
Hold on,
Ragnarok
there it is.
leading into Infinity
First thing I
War.
just said. Stop it. Reverse it. Ragnarok leading directly into Infinity
Whoa,
War.
whoa, 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 whoa!
And
I
he
haven't even seen
said,
this yet.
Punch you in the face. But and Trevor pointed out that he actually didn't mind that, and it seems like you don't dislike it because it wasn't the main focus of the film. Was Thor's story, right?
Yeah, it's one character's perspective leading you into the larger perspective. But this was the entire world left off where the Incredibles left off, and we picked up immediately where it left off. And that, like, I don't know, like there was. Maybe I'm just upset that the promise of what Incredibles 1 was which was the world came around. Supers, they saw them beat Syndrome. They saw that. The world's accepting of supers now. And that's what we get to see in the promise of the Underminer showing up, like a random ass, crazy, big villain showing up. The Incredibles all putting their masks on. Like, all right, supers are back in the world. And then this movie was explaining that same feeling that I felt at the end of the movie, and it ends with them kind of like, I don't know about literally, but at least emotionally in the exact same spot they were at the end of Incredibles 1.
Did everybody agree? How did everybody feel about the story? I feel like there's so much to talk about with this movie that I'm like really excited to talk about. What did everybody feel about the story?
I'm more with Trevor on this. I thought, yeah, it gets you so pumped at the end of the first one. You're like, yeah, and then you're like, all right. And I guess I'd done, I mean, I'm sure like many people, I built this film up so high in my head that pretty much anything I might have seen may have let me down anyway. But I'd read a review that was pretty spoiler free, but they said like the last sequence in the film was like really well choreographed. But I thought it was also an underwhelming scene too.
Yes.
It's an amazing film. Like it is, but it's this with story, it's like watching a contract being filled out. Like it's seeing how the sausage is made. And I'd rather just see superheroics and just fun stuff and this family come together and realize the emotional stakes they put themselves in. And the actual story beats just was like, all right. Like the emotional stuff hit really hard. Who everyone like the scene with Violet and Bob, but like where he's just like, I'm not a good, like I realized I'm not a good dad. Like that was awesome. All the stuff with Jack was all the emotional stuff really really hit, but the story, the actual narrative was just like, all right.
I'd agree.
I was good with the story being it more intimate and having kind of Elastigirl and the lead, which I thought was great, and I was okay with the villain being her like grown to be her nemesis. I thought that was cool. I just think the ending was underwhelming. Like I was like, oh, it's over?
Yeah.
Oh, okay then. And I said it a little bit, and I was just like, well, if there's no end credit scene setting up the third one, I think I can just go ahead and leave now.
True. Cameron, I know you've been just waiting.
I loved this movie.
Yeah.
Cameron, I didn't hate this movie.
We're sticking specifically to story right now.
Yeah,
It's-
the
it's-
story. I do agree
The
that
magnitude, the electricity of leaving the film wasn't there for me.
Yeah, I do agree that compared to the ending of the first Incredibles, this did feel less energetic and less
It
exciting.
felt softer to me, a
Yeah.
little less impactful.
And yeah, story wise, I mean I loved the story. It is the exact same story as the first Incredibles, but I'm also kind of just okay with that because I mean that's what I wanted. I just wanted more of that world, and I think my problem is I would have been happy with anything they would have given me just being in that superhero world.
Yeah.
And I think it's like really talking about the story, it's so interesting to see like I'd be curious when the first draft of this was written because it has been 14 years and if you just think of where the world of superhero cinema has gone from 2004 to now, like what do you think the story would have been like how do you think this movie would have gone if it came out 4 years later instead of 14 years later?
So like pre-Iron Man,
Yes.
like in the thick of Dark Knight.
I think they would have done a time jump. I think that part of the reason they picked it up exactly where they did was because it's been 14 years.
Okay.
And I don't exactly know why I feel that way, but I do. I think that if it had happened right after, they probably would have picked, cause it still would have been fresh in people's minds. They probably would
Well, I
have
think
time
that
jumped
like a
little
lot of
bit.
people that I talk to, even the ones that aren't super into the nerdy world, like they remember the Underminer, which
Funny.
kind of amazes me.
That's
like
really
that,
weird, yeah.
That resonated with people. And like the other people I talked to, I could not remember the boyfriend at all. Like I already forgot
I
his
mean,
name.
he's
Tony?
a striking
Thank you.
image. He's a very striking Silver Age image.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably what sticks in people's minds is like, the Underminer.
Yeah.
And he's also the Ratzenberg
Yeah.
cameo too of that movie. So it's like, I didn't necessarily need to see his plot of stealing all the banks and find out that that's what his idea was when he showed up at the end of The Incredibles. But he was a striking image at the end of that.
And I think his vehicle is such a cool thing to come up like that. Him on, because he like looks like he levitates at the end of the
Yeah.
first movie, and I think that was such a cool thing to revisit. I think that the story in this one was the weakest piece for me. But I'm so torn because it didn't really keep me from enjoying anything any less because everything else was so great. The relationships were great, which normally I feel like the relationships and story go so hand in hand. But for me, the relationships were still amazing. You had all of these really good talks. Like I love that, Mr. What's his name? Not
Bob.
Bob. That he wasn't like just bummed that he was at home with the kids because he'd rather be out. There was such a complexity to that where like Helen was selected because she was like the better, more efficient hero, and that you saw him struggle with that, and you saw him like still try to be supportive and still try to do it all and be like, no, this is for the greater good. But you saw him kind of throughout having that struggle, which I thought was really cool. It would have been really easy for him to just be like mad at once and then like just either stay resentful or like get over it. But I thought that there were nice layers to that. I thought that like the kids felt more real to me, so normally I feel like the story is driven by relationship. In this case I didn't feel that so much. Like I felt the story was convoluted, but like would a kid still be like, that's the bad guy? Yeah, they'd still get it, and it didn't keep me from enjoying anything. I thought the end was a little ham-fisted. It's like they clearly just wanted to do a bunch of action sequences on a boat. They clearly just really wanted. They're like, we haven't seen that before. Like, let's see this happen on a yacht. So they like kind of forced it in, but it was kind of a bizarre choice. But the visuals were so amazing, I didn't even care.
Yeah.
Oh, gorgeous.
Yeah, true. But I also wanted, because I enjoyed the beginning part of it where they're basically fighting just, people whose memories have been wiped or altered or under their screenslaver's control. So I was like, all right, we're getting to see some more than just the family fighting syndrome. We're actually getting to see a big group fight. And then it quickly just, nope, they got all their glasses taken off and everybody's back to normal.
Yeah.
And now we're just trying to steer a boat away from the city. And I was like, it's kind of underwhelming climax.
Yeah, I agree with that. I thought though that I don't know. Did anyone else? I didn't. I'm going to be completely honest. I didn't really realize when I was watching the first one that it took place in the era in which it took place.
Yes.
I remembered
1963.
Yes, but I remembered them like the golden age of superheroes and like the black and white. But then in my mind, it flipped forward to present day. I didn't remember.
There's that 15-year time skip.
There is, but that still only lands them in the
60s,
60s.
yeah.
But I guess when I saw it the first time, and maybe because I was quite a bit younger, it was 14 years ago. But even I just rewatched it not that long ago, and the era didn't strike me so much. I thought it was just kind of a
Syndrome
vague...
was so high tech in all of his gear, where it
Right.
kind of like brings
And
you
I felt
back
like
into
the
art.
kids were still very, and so it was just kind of vague. I felt like it was kind of that vague thing that sometimes they do in films where there's like, well, there's no cell phones, and it's pretty and clean, but we're not going to really give it an
like
era.
an Archer.
Yes, exactly. Very much like Archer, and that's kind of what I'd always taken for granted.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so struck with the era of this one, that the choices that they made, that it was so stylized, and for me, the design and the art and the VFX in this, I wanted
From the second we saw the castle,
everything.
I told Amanda that was my favorite. Like, no offense to everything else, but my favorite image was just the cool 60s
that was
city
so fucking cool.
with the monorail
It was beautiful.
pulling off, and then all of a sudden you realize, oh, we're in the Disney logo, and there's the Magic Castle. Like, that was awesome.
I am still hunting because that's gonna be my new phone background.
I want to. I was telling
3
Amanda,
years.
I want to see that movie,
Yeah.
whatever that world is. But like, it doesn't necessarily need to be Disney, but whatever that idea is of a metropolitan city, just
Brad-
over the hill of some Disney castle.
Give
I
Brad
want to.
one more
What's
chance
the
at
story?
Tomorrowland.
What's that
Just give him-
story?
Give it one more chance at Tomorrowland.
Yeah.
But don't
Yeah.
give Brad Bird it.
No, I think
He
I
had his chance.
I still
he
trust
had his
Brad.
chance. Then at least don't take George Clooney.
Yeah, that's fine.
So sad.
But no, that was like that was like not even Tomorrowland. That was like just kick ass.
Well, it's 60s tomorrow. It's retrofuturism.
But it's
yeah,
it's-
that's
which
what
is-
like that was retro Futureland. That's what I want to go
Mhm.
to.
They just
not
com-
Tomorrowland.
they just embraced that so hard, and it was so beautiful. And I felt like every scene, I was like, I want a poster of that. I want a poster of
Yeah.
that. Like there's I had this being in the theater and seeing the image when they first get dropped off at the motel. For
The
first time,
safari, yeah.
it looks like the Safari Inn.
Yeah, that's what it's based off
NoHo.
of.
Oh, is it?
Oh
okay,
no,
it looks like
it's based off the. So when Disneyland first opened, there were all the like kitschy motels that opened up around. So it's based off of the Safari Inn that opened in Anaheim.
Oh, that's funny. It looks like the Safari Inn to me in like Burbank, NoHo area.
okay.
But the vehicle drives away and they're standing there and they're not in costume and they're just standing in the parking lot and there's like a sunset and I was like, God, I just want that on my wall.
Mm-hmm.
It's stunning. And the same, even like the weird visuals when she's having the fight sequence with the like black light, which was so bizarre to me and it felt kind of out of place, but it was still such a cool, interesting way of doing it with like the white outlines on the characters. I can't get over the visuals of this film. Yeah.
That's the big accomplishment of this film. Is like we can nitpick about the story and which characters featured in what and everything like that. There is not a single visual in Incredibles that surpasses even the minimalist Incredibles 2 visual. Like that's where the 14-year time gap. That's where it really shows in a very, very good way.
yeah.
It's just the technology and the artistic style is just so much. It has just increased so exponentially. There's just like night and day.
I was pulling up stills in my office. People were asking me how it was, and I'm like, I was trying to explain. I was like, the visuals are insane. I was trying to find. I was like, I don't want to ruin anything, but I just Googled it, and just the images that came up, like him laying with Jack when he's reading to him.
Oh, I love that scene
just
so
the
much.
The
texture.
first one,
Yeah.
can
the first one
see-
where Jack's actually falling asleep.
And you can see like the wrinkles in his shirt and like the very, very light shadow, but the lighting in every sequence is stunning.
It looks like it was
It's just
done by the
beautiful.
artist who did Kingdom Come.
Oh, Alex Ross.
Oh, yeah.
Alex Ross. Yeah, I was trying to think of it. Yeah, it really
I know that.
does.
I know that guy.
Look at you, Cameron. Look at
But
you.
even like, oh my, like just that creepy ass image of Screenslaver, maybe not in the background as Elastigirl's putting her arms through and getting all the
Oh,
locks.
man.
Yeah.
Like
There were
you double
screens in my
take.
theater.
You
Yeah.
double.
And
It's
that
just
was-
like that was
That was scary.
insane.
That was,
That was really
intense.
cool
Yeah.
stuff that
Oh,
the
this
original
movie wasn't
did.
afraid to go there. I mean, there was a gun firing off like early on in the movie. It's like, oh yeah, and they killed my parents.
Yeah.
Right.
I was just like, oh shit.
Yeah. We got our Batman story.
Yeah, exactly what I said. They got Bruce Wayne.
It was
Mhm.
darker. There were several
Yeah.
sequences in this. Even the whole Screenslaver thing. I was like, oh, that was a bit dark for a Disney Pixar film.
Although I mean, we see that one from like with Gazer Beam stuck on the island where they find his
Yeah.
skeleton.
Yeah, but there's something different about that. That to me feels very like Pirates of the Caribbean, whereas this it's like, oh boy, look at that, look at what happened, and it's still kind of like kooky. Whereas this is like, there's somebody in your house.
Yeah.
Well, and
Like it's just creepy.
all of humankind's died in Wall-E, so there's that. So Pixar's
Yeah.
going there.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and they've embraced sadness and some darkness, and I think you need that, But
Well,
this was
Like
very
a
visual. Even
mature.
with just
It's a mature darkness.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
It's
for
not
this
comic
movie.
book darkness.
The fact
It
that-
is legit.
The fact they even show a gun firing for
Yeah.
this film and the age group in this age, this time that we're currently in, was surprising to me. And it didn't distract me. I didn't think like, oh, that shouldn't be there. That's inappropriate.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it did surprise me. And part of that's like having worked in animation, having to deal with like S&P, right? When dealing with standards and practices, like what you can show, what you can't show, and all that. But I was kind of surprised by it.
Well, even the scenes with Violet, the one that pops out to me is when all of the other heroes are attacking the kids. And
Mhm.
Violet has her force field, and Crusher is like shrinking the
Yeah.
force
Yeah,
field. and
yeah,
you
yeah.
feel
You're like, oh
shit.
Yeah.
But on the note of like this is the dark and sad, I think this is like the least like trying to be emotional film we've had in so long, and it's so refreshing.
This is also a film that has a baby fighting a raccoon.
Oh,
they had to.
So they had,
Oh.
That
there's
was
that.
amazing.
I got to see that
They
scene
had to.
at D23 last year, and they told us that this was a test, that it wasn't going to be in the film.
Hmm.
And so when I got to see it on the big
Yeah,
screen
well,
again.
but
I was so
what-
excited.
it's so
How was the
smart.
quality?
Jack's
Did the
first
quality
nemesis.
change or anything like that? Was it the same or like movements or anything? How
You
did
could
it change?
tell they the sequence was the exact same. There was some like lighting differences. That's all that I could really remember though.
It was so smart though because you have to show the baby in a fight sequence if you want to show his powers,
Raccoon.
but you can't show him fighting. You can't show an adult beating on a baby.
Yeah.
Like you just can't do. There's no great way of doing that.
I saw Will Ferrell punch a baby in a
That's-
movie.
That's true.
Yeah, it's probably pretty great. But like in this type
Also
of
saw him get
film,
beat up by a
you have to
baby in
be
the short.
so careful with those fight sequences of like who beats up on who, which is probably why
Yeah.
they also paired Violet with
Void.
Void,
Mhm.
because at least they're kind of the similar age, similar stature. Like you have to be careful about who you pair with who in a movie like that. And that was so brilliant, him fighting that raccoon. I could have. It was a long sequence. I
Yeah.
could have watched him fight that fucking raccoon
Yep.
for like another 10 minutes.
Could
Yeah.
have been the climax of the movie.
It
It was so.
could've been.
Oh my gosh! It
The
was
only
so
thing
funny.
I wish is I wish they would have dubbed the TV whatever movie they were watching. I wish they would have dubbed that over the fight scene.
Oh yeah, that would have
Would've
been
been
really
funny.
good. Oh, speaking of dark, let's not forget that the kids killed people last movie.
Yeah.
Killed
But we
those
don't
people
talk about
that. So they've seen some shit, and you know what? They were fucking amazing in that battle. They were holding their own, doing their superhero thing. And we were talking earlier, like if we expected them to kind of get their own suit. I feel like part 3 has them coming into their own as superheroes.
Probably.
And I was actually kind of hoping that Dash was gonna get Mr. Incredible's car, but like tricked out to fit Dash's superhero identity.
Mhm.
That car was cool.
Yeah.
That
I
was
mean, I would
dope.
love to see just like one of the, because we had the short in the last movie of
Mhm.
the mind wiping the friend.
Mm-hmm.
I would love like kind of mixing the Incredibles with that one Bob's Burgers intro where he's teaching Tina to drive, where Bob is teaching Violet to drive in the Incredicar.
The Incredible.
Turn. Ha ha ha.
Have you guys seen that Bob's Burgers
I
intro?
have,
not.
but it's been a long time.
Oh,
Oh my
okay.
god.
It's amazing. Tina, just turn the wheel.
I would 100% watch the Bob's Burgers Incredibles episode,
Yeah.
which could happen in our lifetime in the next couple of years.
What a time to be alive. What do you think, Frank? You're pretty quiet.
I'm just basking in all your hot takes.
Frank,
You know, well, I'm glad I'm not basking that Chris Lord. I'm not
Yeah.
basking anything he's got. to
I
say.
agree.
Oh, Frank, I'm very curious about your take about the motorcycle monorail sequence.
Oh, that was
Because that's action we've never
fucking
really
cool.
seen. Powers utilized in a way we've never seen before. I feel like you got a hot take on it
Oh, really?
that I
This-
really want to. I really want to hear.
I feel like this conversation we would have
Suck
too
it,
because
Reed
there's. I
Richards.
feel like we've had conversations about superheroes that have powers like stretching,
Yes.
and my question is like, so what can they do?
Well, you saw what they did.
I know, but I thought this was like a really amazing. I thought in this movie that like I'll never ask that question again because they showed every possible thing she could possibly utilize her powers for. She did, which that was really really cool. But what did you think?
I liked it, but I'm also like, is she like one an incredible core? Because there's a lot of points where she's segmenting that bike and doing her stuff. Thinking, well, that's still got to be. You're holding on even to half a bike. That's heavy. It is heavy.
Yeah.
So, but she
Could have
did
been
it.
like some carbon fiber.
It's very
bullshit.
lightweight. Very lightweight. Got it. Got it. No, that was it was a cool
But it had to
sequence.
also be enough to launch her because that was giving her the momentum to jump, which is
Yep.
so.
She does a lot of down dog.
fucking
Clearly,
cool.
just a lot of down dog. Working
I
on
like
that
that.
core.
I thought that sequence was great, and I thought just it was great to see more Frozone and him doing his stuff. And when he goes to the house and he helps out the kids, just like a brief sequence, but it was still really nice.
Especially like when you see the snow come down when
Yeah.
all the villains walk up and then you see this light snow and like Frozen's here to save the day.
Did you take your kid to this or did you see?
I did.
How was that watching?
What'd
with
the
kiddo?
jerk say about it?
Yeah, what's her
Man.
hot take?
Well, first, yeah, I feel like maybe still I shouldn't have taken her because the movie is kind of slow, especially at the beginning. It's a slow burn.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought this was like a pretty fast-paced movie compared to the past superhero films we've had.
Yeah, I thought
No,
it
it's
jumped
like-
in, but that's why I'm asking
Yeah.
because you get a
Yeah.
whole different perspective, not just when you see it with someone else who like maybe isn't as familiar with the movies. Like I went with my husband Mike, who I made watch The Incredibles so we could go see this. He'd never seen it before.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you married that man.
You sound like Trevor. It's the same thing. He has-
Literally words taken out of my mouth in
Word-
the private of our own
word
conversation. I'm just
for
like, you
word.
married this man.
Yeah, I
and
know.
his lack of knowledge.
But you guys, he is our biggest
This
fan.
is
He
now
listens to
your
every
lack of
podcast,
knowledge.
So you can't be.
Amanda, you have
He's
married
no
this lack
Chris
of
Lloyd.
knowledge.
He's a good egg.
You have taken this lack of knowledge upon yourself, thus making yourself even more of a novice.
Oh,
You realize that's what your marriage has done to you.
that math makes so little sense.
You've perpetuated the premise of your podcast
I don't
even
think that's
that
true.
much further.
No, that just means that for him, I'm the expert.
It's true. You're the
Ah.
Frank. In the
Well, that,
relationship.
are we gonna see
Turn
the
tables,
are we
turn
gonna
tables.
see the Amanda and Novice marriage podcast sometime soon?
If you come over to our house, you'll see the Amanda Novice marriage
I'll record it.
happening all the time.
I will sound engineer it.
Thank you. Yeah. So, but I think that like when you go with someone else who's coming in from a different perspective, you're sometimes thinking about like you're seeing it as yourself, and you're also it's like if you like watch a movie and you like love this movie. You're like, oh my God, you're gonna love this movie. I'm not gonna say it. Let's just watch it. Then you watch the movie with them and you're aware, like, of watching it with fresh eyes. You're like, oh fuck, this movie's really stupid. Like, why did I do? And you're like, it's usually. I mean, you just have to. I don't want to ruin it for you, but like, you just have to stay with it, and like the whole thing. So
Oh,
you
I've
kind
done
of-
that with dozens of films.
So
and
many
it's
dates,
great.
like so many dates that you've done that with. That they're just,
Empire
like-
Record. I still stand by. That's a
Oh,
great movie.
Yeah, all of it. But I feel like when you even if you're with a kid, you're suddenly very aware of their attention span and how long the movie is. Because I'm gonna have to pee, and like, how is it? Is it too scary? Like, how is it staying with her?
One, I didn't want her to start wiggling around. That was my big goal. And at first, it was like, all right, this is great. This has got her sucked in. She's going to be so captivated. This time's going to fly by. And then a little bit more than halfway through, then the rocking started.
Oh.
And then the kind of like, I'm bouncing up and then I'm falling back. And I'm bouncing up and I'm like, oh, just sit down. So good stuff there. So it
Okay.
did not keep the 5-year-old completely captivated.
Okay, all right.
But she still, I mean, at the end, she said it was a long movie, but I guess she kind
It
of
was
liked it.
It's
2
like-
hours.
Yeah,
Yeah.
2 hours. That's what really struck me about it. Was
Mhm.
just like, oh damn, this is 2 hours.
Which is rare to see an animated film go that length. And
Yeah.
for me, I was like, all right, I'm down for that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There's no reason that just because it's animated, it should be confined to be more of a 90-minute running time.
Mhm.
So I didn't mind that.
What do you think of the action sequences? I love the action sequences in this movie.
Void, I thought, was
Yes,
really cool. The way
so
that her power.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, because who's the DC hero? She is the Herald, right?
You
Did I-
mean
Wait.
Spot from Marvel? Is that who you're talking about?
No, in
Spot.
DC, there's a hero. I'm pretty sure it's the Herald who has the trumpet. And when he
Yes.
plays it, yeah, it opens dimensions.
Yes. But she just does it without playing a trumpet.
Yeah. So much less cool.
Much less cool. Yeah. Well, I thought this was cooler than planning to play a trumpet.
Mhm.
Because all you do is just knock the trumpet out of his hand. It's like, well, there you go, Harold,
Yeah,
suck
he's-
it.
he's
You
gone
can't do
now.
anything.
Mhm.
But just the way that it was visually realized, I thought was really cool.
Mhm. And then her fight scene with Mrs. Incredible or Elastigirl,
Violet.
I love.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Violet too, when she
Yeah.
like goes into the force field.
I was like, oh, I didn't know you
and
could do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think this movie did such an amazing job, like going creative with
Oh yeah.
the superpowers,
For
and
sure.
it's not just like. And I think they kind of make fun of that with Mr. Incredible, of like, yeah, all you can do is
You're
punch
really
and break
strong.
things. And then the line with Crusher at the end, it's like, you want me to uncrush? how do you unpunch someone?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah,
Well,
exactly.
This movie did a really good job of addressing, but not pointing out that they were addressing that the flaws of their characters' powers. Like they point out every single one of those characters' weaknesses
Mhm.
in the course of this film, but never once drew attention to that's how Elastigirl can be defeated. All this stuff. It was really good. Just like like with Void and Violet. Of just like, yeah, well, it's a circle, but she can still put a teleport in the ground below her. And so I think it was really cool. Like, this movie really pointed out the cracks of these characters are about. That, like, it really feels like there's no way that there won't be an Impossibles 3. Like, ultimately, like,
Impossibles 3.
Yeah.
Incredibles 3.
The
I would
crossover
say that
between the
the-
Incredibles
The
and
Impossibles
the,
three.
The Impossibles are the name
Incredible.
of the people that live in the monorail 60s Disney City.
Mhm.
The Impossibles.
It's a spin-off.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Incredibles 3, like, it's this. It feels like they've built up a first and second act that it can't not be fulfilled with a third.
Hopefully
Like now,
not
like now that
14
there's been a
years
sequel, it's like, well, you gotta fucking complete the trilogy. And I'll be pissed off. It takes another 14 years for it to happen, and we get old James Earl Jones saying his Darth Vader dialogue again, with Craig T. Nelson or Holly Hunter, any one of those. Like it's just like I want to see this film realized and this world realized now that they've set up the second one.
Did you let? Oh, sorry. Go
Oh
ahead.
no, it's like I almost, for a reason I agree with you about it in terms of a time jump. It doesn't have to be a huge one, but even if it was like
Couple of
6
months.
months, something like that, just so that Jack and Violet had a better grasp of their powers.
It's like,
Yeah.
and heroes are
Yeah.
legal again, and they've been legal for 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
that's-
it's like we're still calling them Violet and Dash, but it's Mr. Incredible and Elastigirl. Where are their code names?
Yeah.
Where are their
Yeah,
code
one of-
names?
so you brought
Except
this,
Jack Jack.
Yeah.
He'll always be Jack Jack.
yes, you brought this up kind of at the beginning of the podcast. Of they never addressed Syndrome. Like we know there was 2 months between the Syndrome attack and when Dash does his race at the end of Incredibles. But there was like I would love to know what the news was like, how the news was handling that, because this
Yeah.
was the first time supers had come out of the ground in 15 years. And so like how was the news handling that? How were the politicians handling that? Like how was this bill? Because the biggest concern I've heard from the movie is like this felt like 48 hours a bill had been overturned. And so I'd love to know, like, was this already in motion because of Syndrome, or
Right.
like
And yeah, just like my also like Pixar didn't take into account that my recollection would forget that it was a 2-month jump in that
yeah,
movie.
I did forget.
I forgot that it was like a little bit of a gap between the Syndrome stuff with the attack and then him kidnapping Jack Jack and then dying and then Dash running his race.
I would have forgot until they brought it up in the motel of like, where's my suit and tie? They're like, oh, it burnt up.
oh,
when
with
the plane-
that-
yeah,
Yeah.
when the plane hit our house.
Yeah, because I'd forgotten the
I
time jump
totally did too,
Until,
yeah.
Yeah, so
that
it's
was super
But
wicked.
also it was 2 months since that happened. They didn't get a new house. They didn't get all that taken care of, and they just got to stay at the hotel in 2 weeks. Seems the
Well, I-
producers
they're,
forgot about
maybe
that
they're
too.
laying low.
I assume it's
I
because
guess.
they got caught,
Yeah.
and the reason they had to stay in the motel is because
kind of
they
hiding.
had to move again.
But where were they staying in the 2 months since Syndrome's corpse and his jet destroyed their house, and when they went to Jack Jack's
I'm sure they.
You
I'm
could
sure the
rent
com-
a place,
the-
or
Trevor.
Yeah,
Dash.
the company, whatever. I don't remember what the.
So he's
company
just
name was.
they've been staying at that motel for a couple of months.
No,
That's
no, no.
And
I'm
he's
cool.
like,
sure
you got
But-
2 more weeks in the motel that I've been putting you in the past
they
2
only had
months.
2 weeks in the motel because the company covering for them got shut down.
Yeah. But I'm saying is, were they living there before the movie started?
No, I'm sure the company got them a new place.
Where were they staying before that then?
Oh, I
Why
thought-
couldn't they go back to that
Exact
Cameron,
place?
they were staying there.
Cameron, these are the Disney questions I have for you.
You know,
I
it's,
guess
it's a Dumb and Dumber situation where they're staying at the school.
I thought they were just. I guess I thought that as soon as
Oh,
the
is
house
that-
burnt down, they moved into the hotel and they'd been there for because the guy that their contact was like, the best I can do is 2 more weeks, which made me feel like
Dicker?
if with Dicker
Mhm.
in that context, if
Dirk Diggler.
only if only 2 more weeks, if its phrase is only 2 more weeks, that makes it sound like it is a small bit of time. Where for most people, 2 weeks in a motel is a long time. So if he phrases it that way, only 2 more weeks, then I'm led to believe that they've been there for months.
Okay.
That's
I
my,
could see
that's how
that.
I feel, is that they probably house went down, they got put directly into the motel. I laughed because they made a point of showing boxes in the motel, and there was that line in the first one about her. She calls him and she's celebrating because she unpacked
Took
the
them
last
3
box.
years.
Took them 3 years, so they're full with boxes in the motel again. I just figured they'd-
Continuity errors. Thank you for pointing those out.
no, there aren't any because they've
They just
moved
had to pack
in.
up again.
They had to go get more stuff. Although
How'd they pack up again when their house was
It was just ash.
unexpectedly
They had
Just
things
destroyed?
boxes of ash.
Go fuck yourself, Trevor.
I am not letting this go. I've decided this is my line in the sand.
they've got
You see what happens when you get them all
grandparents, they
liquored up?
probably send them
Amanda?
boxes
He
of
comes
stuff.
in all fiery.
sorry.
One thing I did notice, kind
This is
of,
not my fault.
kind of tangenting off of that and jumping back to Powers. I didn't realize until the kind of fight scenes at the end, the big 3 heroes are rock paper scissors with each other. You have Mr. Incredible can break Frozone's ice. Frozone can freeze Elastigirl so she can't stretch, and Elastigirl can just like not get hit by Mr. Incredible.
Or just kiss him.
Yeah,
That's right.
to seduce him.
Frozen can't kiss Mr. Incredible.
It's true. Not in the 60s.
Because it's
he
the
can't.
60s.
Not in 1963.
You gotta wait to the late 60s.
Yeah.
It's a gay man and it's an interracial couple. That is not going to fly.
No.
It's not going to happen in the 60s.
You gotta wait till at least 2017 in a movie called Moonlight.
But even that was not an interracial couple. It was just all black guys going
That's
at each
true.
other.
While I enjoyed
way to frame that.
while I
It's
enjoyed
an accurate description of Moonlight.
I want to just take this moment to say that we are inclusive. I think I can speak for everybody when I
We
say
are here at the Ruby,
We
the
support
inclusive
equal,
theater.
We support equal rights and equal romance, and that's all I'd like to say. Resume.
While I enjoyed the Void's powers, I felt like there was also never that feeling that I got from the first film, where Dash realized that he can run on water. And just that laugh that he gives as he takes off, like that's one of my favorite moments in that film, where
Yeah.
he just realizes what he can do. And I never quite. That's why I wanted to see them like after they've spent some time kind of practicing, like
What
cool new
else can
stuff
he
that they
do?
can do.
Well,
Yeah.
so we keep talking about a potential Incredibles 3 and seeing the kids kind of come into their own. Where do you see their powers evolving?
That you always come to it was speedsters that always naturally kind of goes into vibrating through walls or traveling in time.
Yeah.
Feels like that's the two big things.
That's what I was really hoping in this film when Jack's kind of goes through the wall the second time. I wanted Dash to
Yes.
try and I don't think he was gonna do it, but I wanted him to maybe if I just shake fast enough.
We had some. We had the idea of different dimensions introduced in this film with both the Void and Jack, but we didn't really see Jack use it. They made a point of showing that he can.
Was it
be in
Dimension
different-
4 they called it?
Yeah, which is pretty funny. Like him being they're like they can hear him, and then with the monitor they can see him, but we didn't really see him use that power ever,
His
which I thought was
poltergeist power.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
Oh no, I could say just for time travel, I could see for a third movie, Dash time travels back and he meets his grandparents who are also superpowered people.
Okay.
go full golden age.
Yeah.
Well, because I was gonna say is it feels like this movie doesn't really grow in terms of its power use and everything like that. It doesn't really grow beyond the intimate use of these powers, and so maybe that's the way to expand it out. Is how can you utilize Violet's powers in a larger scale, or even it's the
Turning other people invisible.
Well, I guess ultimately what I'm saying is don't put him against Underminer or Screenslaver or Syndrome. Put him against what's the Incredibles version of Galactus? What's something give him an otherworldly or larger than a Syndrome or Screenslaver, very very personal. It's a bigger rationale, but it is Screenslaver. The villains killed my parents, and it was because of supers that my parents acted the way they did, that I wanted to destroy them. And Syndrome's reactionary against supers, if everyone's super, then no one's super. What is something beyond that? What is a true blue? What is their Galactus or their Thanos or their Mongol or whatever?
How do they fight someone who can manipulate time? How do they fight someone who isn't a Batman type of superhero with gadgets, who's a person who is made spectacular? How do they fight other actual supers?
How do they fight someone who threatens the world and not their city and not their immediate family?
Well, I don't know, because DC has been dealing with that, and it hadn't been great.
And I'd be
This is Disney.
Yeah,
Just
I'd
saying.
be really curious to see how they would handle that because these stories are meant to be kind of family first with superpowers. And
It's the best Fantastic Four movie never made.
exactly.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Two for
Especially
two.
Elastigirl.
2 for 2.
The best
Two
Mr.
for two.
Mr. Fantastic ever is
Yeah.
Elastigirl.
Until we get that Plastic Man movie.
That we're clamming for.
No, they could definitely do something that's not hitting a Galactus tone or something like that, but just but within this world, we saw Syndrome and Screensaver hit some very comic book ideas without breaking from the Disney Pixar mold. So I am very confident that they can figure out what a world threat is.
Jack.
Yeah. He is.
Dark Phoenix Saga with Jack Jack.
And that's how Dash travels through time. He has to
That's
run
what
back.
that's what the merger is.
That's right.
That's actually what Dark Phoenix this summer is actually going to be about.
Ugh.
It's a tester.
For Screenslaver, like her origin or her motivations, like the fact that she was blaming supers for that. It's like, well, the government shut everybody down, so why are you mad that your father called and nobody was there to pick up? 'Cause-
Also, spoiler alert: Gazerbeam was dead. We learned that last movie.
Yeah.
Syndrome killed him a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys, he's dead. So I felt like her. It was like a warped reason for wanting to blame the superheroes, whether it's just like through grief, she just does that. But it was like, well, that doesn't really make any sense.
Even like you can kind of tell from the shadows, like it seemed like they were implying Bob Odenkirk, Winston Dever
Yeah.
killed him. Like it's straight up like
Oh,
the guy
whoa.
who shot the gun looked like the shadow silhouette of Winston Dever.
I didn't even think about that, but I do
That's
think
dark,
that they
dude.
set him up to be our villain in Incredibles 3. He said something ominous at the end of this movie.
What was that?
He was like, I'll be watching
I'll
you or
kill
something
you all.
like that.
That's people out of place.
You guys-
I got 5 out of the 6 Infinity Stones. Bye. That's what he said.
Yeah, like, but he said basically like he said something along the lines of like we'll see each other around, which
You see, I
It's
thought
such a
I took
strange
that
thing
as
to
him
say.
trying to like form some sort of Avengers with like Frozone and Mr. Incredible and Elastigirl. Now that they're all back,
that might be true too. But to me, it felt like there was something that was so ... about it that I think he'll be making an appearance in Incredibles
Well,
3.
I mean, he still runs their insurance, so he's like, you're gonna break something, so I'm gonna see you guys soon.
yeah.
Frank, would you say Emil Hamilton in the DC animated universe would sort of fit the mold of like basically he believes very much in the core of what these people are doing,
Yeah.
but the reality of the situation that they're operating in turns his hand. Do you feel like that might be something for Winston Dever? Something like that? Because it feels like he's a true believer.
Definitely does. But then I also wonder, like, if we did make that turn in the third movie, would that then just be like, oh, well, it's now just like the world is just that much smaller, as
Yeah.
opposed to doing something like really cool, like you're saying, that outside force, whether it be intergalactic or just otherworldly or something that's much larger than we've seen before to really kind of shake things up.
Yeah. That's what I feel like. It's got to be something like that. And like keep the Underminer as like the Cillian Murphy of like
Yes.
the series. Like it just like
He's just there.
Crane just shows up. I got fear gas, guys. Like, all right.
So there's
Bane's happening. We gotta deal with
there's
this.
there's an anime out right now called My Hero Academia, which kind of deals with a future where everyone has superpowers. And there's a mini arc last season called the Stain arc, where the story was there was a murderer going around who was killing heroes who were being heroes for the sake of glory and fame and not for the sake of just being good for the sake of good. And I would love for that kind of thing to play into it, especially in this movie with Bob, like wanting to go back in the field for the glory of it and not for the sake of just being good. And like kind of playing with that of like what is a hero? Like that would be I would love. I mean that might be a little mature for a Pixar film, but I would love.
We've
that
seen
kind
that
of
they're not.
story.
Incredibles isn't afraid to go there. I
That's
think they could
true.
pull that off for sure.
Also,
Do you think Bob-
everyone died on Earth in Wall-E.
Yeah, not everyone. There's still the axiom.
Always remember that.
There's still the fat people.
But do you think Bob was doing it for the glory, or just feel like this is what he loves to do and what
Yeah.
he knows to do, and don't make me work in an office? That's so counter to anything I ever want to do with my life.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he's this because I don't know if he really cares about the accolades. He just wants to do what he loves.
Yeah.
Do you I mean,
I also agree with that point. I just think kind of the way I think he was used to being number one, and
Yes.
when they pick someone else, like he's never been second pick.
very true.
And so kind of like the limelight of that is what he wants. Like he still wants to do good for the sake of good, but he also wants
Yeah, like in the first one, he still had all of his like memorabilia and like trophies and newspaper clippings and shit, like in his little room, right?
Mhm.
So he obviously
all
still
that burned down too.
Yeah,
I didn't
I
think
know,
about that.
I know, but it's still
It's just
inside
like a
of
new,
him.
just like a little new wave of sadness just hit
Mhm.
you. I love Chris being
Poor
supportive.
Bob.
It's all still inside him.
He never lost it, Cameron.
He still has the memories.
Yeah. I will say, Dash grabbing the remote for the Incredicar and playing around with it. That
How do you
yeah.
fire the missiles?
Yeah.
He's the villain. Like he's definitely going to grow to be some kind of like.
He could be. That would be kind of a hilarious next step is them trying to keep him from going over to the dark side, basically.
Yeah.
I like that they gave sort of a precursor to that wasn't out of nowhere, that they'd already established the pattern of him like buttons and like with all the furniture in the house, like the pristine dream house that I want to live in so bad. It's like just starts falling apart as he keeps pushing buttons.
Did you see the cross promotion with Zillow? Did I bring this up
Yes.
already?
No, but I saw
Yeah,
it.
so if you go to Zillow.com, you can actually look at like the Incredibles house is listed,
Oh my god!
and you can look at all the rooms.
What?
Right? Isn't it the weirdest promotion ever?
That is so weird, but I also love it.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
have to go there with promotions
That's
now, man.
so
Deadpool changed the
unique.
game.
That's true. Deadpool did change the game.
Well, there was that one for the Avengers that was going around with like car insurance, where they kept doing the commercials.
The
where
general.
no, the general. That's right.
Shaq
Him
and
and
the
Shaq.
Avengers.
Yeah, we're gonna do it, Shaq. We're going against Thanos.
The general stands against Thanos.
But there was that commercial that kept on playing where it was just some woman walking through like the destroyed New York, and they'd have somebody pretending to be Doctor Strange, and then they could CGI Iron Man coming through. But she was just like in the midst of this kind of New York battle for a second, and that was Rocket, I think Rocket Insurance or something like that. But they get so much play.
yeah.
I was like, why are we doing this? Why are the Avengers? Why Disney? Why you don't need this?
You don't need the money. Like, what are you doing?
Well, I think I love evolution of advertising, and I think that's important to not just do trailers. Like one of my favorite things right now in Japan, there's a commercial. They have a whole series of commercials where it's a story that took place over 8 months of these 15-second commercials for gum. And it's like this woman who's who's dating this guy but is in love with another man who has like a different flavor of the candy. It's called Long Long Man for anyone who wants to Google it.
The long man.
Yes, and it's so it's basically like a daytime drama in commercial form, and it's so well done. And like I love like being experimental with advertising in that way.
But is it played straight up, or is it kind of played for laughs? Like, we know we're having fun with this.
Oh, I mean, all Japanese commercials are played for laughs at this point. Like they're so bizarre.
All right, I don't, Chris. I don't want to speak for you,
Uh-huh.
but as someone who has watched The Walking Dead for multiple seasons, that shit sucks. Like all the Fear the Walking Dead like tie-in stories that they're trying to do. Like, I mean, it is very individualistically based, but on the whole, all the stuff I've seen has sucked. All the Walking Dead stuff, the like tie-in like side stories, like watch this every week
Oh, you
through the
mean
whole
like the little
flight,
miniseries,
the Fear of the Walking Dead
Oh, and
shit.
and then also like the video, because I also watch The Walking Dead, so don't feel bad about that. But you
No,
mean
it's
like
not The
also-
Walking Dead that I'm feeling bad about. Well,
It's-
now, but
Yeah.
You mean just like that they're also like video games and stuff?
No, they have like the airplane miniseries, and they have like the Red Machete one that's been going on. It's just like little
See, I don't watch
5-minute
I don't watch
internet series.
Fear the Walking Dead. Is it all for Fear?
No, they do it during The Walking Dead. You'll see it during a commercial where it's just like, log into AMC.com
I
to watch
know what
what
you're talking
happens
about.
next.
Oh yeah, that's obnoxious.
Yeah.
I mean, they were doing it back with sci-fi with like Battlestar Galactica, Blood and Chrome.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of like that, like a little online thing. Yeah, check it out what it was like back in the old young days with.
Well,
Adama.
they do it with the Flash too, with the Cisco Chronicles.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
it's not, yeah. So
but then
like,
they also have the Windows Edge or whatever
Yes.
sponsored content.
Oh, those were so
Like the
horrible.
Cisco Chronicles was fun. The Edge stuff was awful.
Hey, you Flash, how does that work? Hey, it's funny you ask, little boy.
I got this touchscreen computer right here. It's a Windows Edge. Oh my god, look at this.
Did you guys love the short that was played before the film?
yes.
I've been wanting to bring it up.
Ask about
Oh
that.
my god, it really took at my stuff.
Okay.
It was good. It was damn good.
I need to ask a question though. A very important question. Is that his brother or his mom?
Wait,
What
what?
are you talking about?
For which one?
In the short.
You said, is that his brother or his mom?
The guy who the
Dumpling?
the dumpling who he's based off of, is that his mom or is
That's
that his
her
brother?
son, who clearly
Really? Because I watched the first 2/3 of it. I was like, that's his brother. It was a very masculine design.
Oh,
Like I thought it was
oh.
his younger brother and was upset that that his older brother left.
No, it's
No,
definitely
this is
mom.
mom.
No, I realized that at the end when I saw the 2D designs of it, but in the 3D composition of it, that looked like a young 17-year-old
think that
Asian boy.
You're the only one in this room that thought that it wasn't his mom, though.
I know it's his mom, and I know it was his mom at the end of the story, but it felt and played like it was his younger brother,
Okay,
I
I
don't-
didn't love it.
especially with the short
you
hair.
didn't?
No, I didn't. But for
Is it
me,
because you hate Chinese food?
it's just because I hate Chinese food.
Yes.
Yeah, because it's all glutinous. I can't eat.
That's right. So it's like,
No,
I can't buy this.
listen.
You can't,
I,
yeah, can I get
uh,
even that a
gluten-free
gluten?
short,
No,
please.
I think
There's
that,
all that dough. You're just like,
I think
no.
that dumplings are one of the simple pleasures of life. Actually, I adore a dumpling more than anything. But no, I give it points for being imaginative. It was just a little. It was like a little weird for me. It was just like a little too weird.
Okay.
But I also feel like I used to love the Pixar shorts. They
I
were like
still
my
do.
favorite thing.
They're so cute.
And I feel like the last couple that I've seen have really missed for me. Like I hate the
Really?
lava thing.
Oh,
I
that's what
Oh, you shut up.
wow.
no.
I will
I
say the
hated that
first time
one.
I watched Lava, I was not a big fan, but then coming back to it a year or so ago, it's adorable.
Is
I
it?
was
Yeah.
I had I didn't hate it. That's an overstatement. I had
Moved to
problems. Really? Nah, it
What?
just doesn't do it for me.
loved lava.
Did somebody punch you in the balls as you were watching it?
Loved lava.
I
I
thought-
loved
I just
lava.
didn't understand why he looked like a rock and she looked like a curvy non-rock.
All right. I get those problems.
It's
but
for
it's
me-
a lovely, beautiful story.
For me, it was.
I
such a-
understand how men look bulky and women look.
No, I'm not.
Like,
but I'm not
I
trying.
understand design
No, my problem
aesthetics.
wasn't as a feminist. It was as a person who appreciates design. I just didn't get. They didn't feel like they were in the same world.
Because he
to
looked
me.
like Lenny, and he didn't think he believed love.
No, I don't know. I just didn't like it. I felt.
What was the
it
short
felt very
in front
trite
of
to me.
Coco? No, Coco's Disney. What was the short in front of Dory?
I don't know. The last couple-
Piper. Oh,
Piper.
Oh,
the
the
bird.
bird. Ma'am.
The cute little fluffy white bird who's eating off the shore and
Yeah.
is afraid of water.
Okay, I only vaguely remember that one.
Oh,
that
Piper
one.
is adorable.
The ones that I remember really liking, there was one with the cloud,
Mm-hmm.
the adorable cloud, and
that
then
was
there was one with
in,
the snow
Toy Story
globes.
2.
There's one with
The
the, lost
snow
Lost
globe
Monsters,
was
Inc.
so cute, and
So this wasn't adorable enough for you.
I don't. I just it felt like it drive. It felt well. I don't know. It didn't feel as genuine to me. It felt like it was trying to pull at my heartstrings, which is like one of my pet peeves.
Mm-hmm.
in the movie. I'm like, just let me feel
Keep
it
your
organically.
hands off my heart, you sons of bitches.
I'm just like, I just want to feel it organically, and it felt to me. I was like, I didn't understand the rules of the world. I'm like, so you're feeding him, but also like he eats, but other people don't see him as being strange because he's a dumpling. But then I get it because I
But
think
he
she
can
was
also
dreaming.
grow facial hair. Let's not
Yes,
forget that he
but I
can
think that she
grow
was
a
also-
Did he grow it or did he draw it on? Because I thought he drew it on.
I would
which
have loved
accepted.
if it was like olives or some kind of like you see him in the kitchen just like placing them on.
But it wound up she was dreaming, right? She was dreaming of the
She was just,
dumpling, and
she
she was
just
afraid.
missing her son while
she was afraid
cooking.
that she'd been eating. That she was like, so, and I was like, oh my gosh, she's ate him, which I liked the surprise. I thought that was funny, but I was like, I'm confused. I just
I
wasn't,
love the
it just
theater
wasn't my
reaction
favorite
of
thing.
that.
Yeah,
Like,
that was great.
That I think makes it so much
was
more
great.
Yeah.
fun.
For
I didn't
sure.
hate it. It just wasn't. I just haven't seen a Pixar short in a while. I feel like that I was like super moved by.
Mhm.
But I gave it points for being original.
Did you see Paperman? I know that's Disney, not Pixar.
Oh, I
but
love
Paperman is still like my peak for shorts. I have a poster of it above my above my TV.
and my peak is probably playing chess against yourself.
Oh yeah,
That one's-
The- that was
one's
like the
great.
first. That was one
That's
of like the
old
first,
school,
first
but,
one.
but so good,
Mhm.
right? So much in the timing and everything like that. So I don't know. I didn't
love
dislike it. I
lava.
liked it better than Lava.
So I went and saw the movie pretty late at like I don't know, midnight showing. And there was a lot of adults in there, obviously. And I feel like after that short had
adult
aired,
showing.
everyone was just like, I'm just gonna call my mom for a
Yeah.
second. And like a bunch of people like stepped out and you saw like a lot of hands moving to the face to wipe away tears. I was like, okay, well done, short.
I'm cold and heartless, man.
When I saw it, somebody at the end of it, it was kind of quiet there for a beat, and then one person I saw him in the dark, but he stood up and he booed loudly at the screen. That person, Chris Lord.
Yeah. Yeah. I was embarrassed. I was sitting next to him.
That's right. Way to bring it full circle,
Amanda,
Frank.
you brought up a very interesting point, and I'd be very curious to pick your brain about this. You said you don't like being force-fed emotion.
Yeah, it's something that in the same way that like one of the things I liked about this movie, I loved Jack,
Mm-hmm.
but I am very particular. I hate it when they put like a baby or a puppy in the movie and they're like, because it's cute, and they keep going back to that thing over and over again. It drives me crazy. That's why when I saw, I was so nervous about seeing like Guardians 2. Because I was like, fucking Baby Groot is all over the place. It's going to be this movie, and I'm going to be so tired of fucking Baby Groot.
Mm-hmm.
But I loved Baby Groot, and I thought that I loved Jack in this movie because he had those fun things like when he's walking with Edna, and you know what I mean? He's got all these, he had the sensibility and the comprehension of a little adult.
Yes.
So I think for me that kept it still interesting versus just like, oh, he's so precious. I don't want something pushing the movie for the sake of being precious.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I want to talk about the kind of like sappiness of Disney Pixar and where it's gone over the past 10 years.
Okay.
And how a lot of fans that I talk to at least
Mm-hmm.
feel like since Wall-E and Up, a lot of people say were the last two great Pixar. I mean, until now, because I think Incredibles 2 is amazing. But since then, they've just been making emotion for the sake of making you feel something, and not for the sake of the story.
I mean, I didn't think
In the sense
that.
of like Toy Story 3, they try and
Well,
kill
that
all the toys. And,
I
and
will say that
make you cry.
I was not as big a fan of Toy Story 3 as everyone else was.
Okay.
I felt because it just, I'm like, all right, well, I get it, they're toys, like they're toys though. Like it just it felt so forced to me that I didn't fall back in love with like Toy Story 1 and 2. I was just like, oh my God, like I can feel their hurt and their pain and their
Jesse's
rejection.
song.
Jesse's was just, it was so hard and I felt that. But there was something about the way that Toy Story 3 was where maybe it was like all of them supposed to be feeling the same emotion. And then he's got the emotion and I'm like, I don't know him. I don't know his journey. Like I'm not.
Motherfucker, I don't know you.
You know what I mean? I'm just, it wasn't the same for me. And I think maybe because everyone was like, oh my God, that I was just like, I enjoyed it, but I couldn't tell you right now what happens through most of that movie.
Okay.
So it's not as memorable to me.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that like Up, I was like, oh God, like all so brutal,
Yeah.
but like in early on. But I think that's Disney forever. Bambi, like it's not like it's new. That's not a new thing for Disney.
No, I know, but
Yeah.
it's gotten to a point where like they kind of like their goal is to make you cry.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Like,
No,
yeah,
I
Toy Story
don't-
3, Inside Out, Coco.
It's so funny that you're bringing these up because these are the ones that I'm like that have gotten a lot. Now I have not seen Coco.
It's great. It's on
I
Netflix.
keep hearing that it's wonderful. But I will say that I slept through most of Inside Out.
Really?
I really did. I slept through most of it.
That made me question my entire life.
Yeah, I keep hearing that from people, but
You did see it on mushrooms, though, Cameron.
I did.
We gave you those mushrooms.
yeah. So I think that for me the difference is like some of them I do get. I'm like, oh my gosh, and I really do feel that. But several of the ones it's just hit or miss for me.
Okay.
I don't go into it thinking like, oh man, I just want this like life-changing whatever. I go in because I'm like, this looks like a darling movie that's probably beautifully done and I want to be entertained. And that's why I go in. And because of that, if it does give me all the feelings, then I'm like, wonderful. That's great. I love it. But if I go in and they're like, this is going to make you cry. And I've always been like that. I just never...
Fuck you. Good luck,
Even
pal.
as a kid, like I'd go with like girls in high school to like go see, you know, I went and saw, I remember going with a friend of mine and she was like to The Notebook and she was like, it's so sad, it's gonna make you cry. And I'm like, nah, I won't. She's like, it will though. I'm like, nah, I probably won't do that. And we're sitting there and she's already seen it and it starts and I'm like, oh, it's her, it's them. And she's like, what? I'm like, it's them. It's just them. And the whole time she was so mad at me. It was like the first 15 minutes and she was just angry with me the entire movie. And I was just like, why are people crying at this? Like, we know. It's obvious from the get. Like, why are. Well, I don't understand it. I don't like when they go out of their way. I understand trying to make you feel something,
Mm-hmm.
but for me, if there's something about me that if I get the slightest whiff of it being artificial or constructed for that reason, it doesn't feel organic. It's like a shutdown. I'm not interested.
Okay.
And apparently, I
Interesting.
go to sleep.
Well, let's talk about our hopes and maybe our predictions for what we think Incredibles 3 might be.
15 years from now.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, quick question. Did you guys get an introductory video thanking you for attending?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah?
we did.
From
everyone,
Sam
everyone
Jackson?
got it?
I
yeah,
loved-
from
I
Sam
loved that.
Jackson, Holly Hunter, and Craig T. Nelson.
Yeah,
Yes.
I thought it was lovely.
Yeah,
I thought it was lovely too. I just didn't know if it was exclusive to the theater I saw it
Exclusively
in.
for you.
It took me out of
Exclusive
the
to
whole movie.
Pacific
Yeah.
theaters.
I was like, well, now I'm just gonna be picturing them when I should be watching the movie.
Oh, hold on. I really want to talk about the theme songs.
Yes.
Because Chris isn't here.
That was a funny
Chris Lord isn't
moment.
here, so I feel like I have to bring up Giacchino's soundtrack for a half second. It's amazing. But yeah, the theme songs. We got a Frozone theme song, an Elastigirl theme song, and
Those-
and Mr. Incredible theme song, which are all on Spotify right now.
Ooh.
And I've been listening to them nonstop, and they're so good.
I think they're really fun. I thought they were.
Which
really
is your
cute.
favorite?
Elastigirls.
She's a good one.
Yeah. And also, like, it just feels so, like, we did talk about this, where it is a little timeless, but there's those little aspects that feel so 60s. Like, this
Mhm.
feels, like, I hear Johnny Quest when I hear the Elastigirl song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, you saw Johnny
And
Yeah.
we
Quest
saw
in this
Johnny
movie.
Quest,
That
which
was
is also
hilarious.
just as amazing.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Because was Johnny Quest, because I talked to Chris about this afterwards. That was the first, like, not superhero, but, like, hero team up, like family hero team up. I know it was just father son, but someone's trying.
The ghost is coming in.
Is that Chris?
Chris Lord's here.
We've been broadcasting this
Well,
live.
I mean, don't forget
He's
Clutch
pissed
Cargo.
at Frank.
Excuse me.
Clutch Cargo. Don't forget that.
Sorry, I
If
was.
you want to watch a
born-
terrible cartoon,
Okay.
it's from the '60s, but it's basically how Conan O'Brien used to do it. Back when he was on NBC, and he'd have the TV screen come down, and he'd have the lips playing the different famous
Oh,
people.
so like Japanese Spider-Man style.
Yeah, sort of, but it's like a whole cartoon, but they have the real lips
Mm-hmm.
in their talking, and they're so red and they're so weird looking.
Okay.
But the animation, like their hot pursuits, are just like the slowest moving van or jeep moving across the screen. It's great stuff. So check out Clutch Cargo.
Speaking of timeless,
I want to see if that came up before or after Johnny Quest.
we gotta
Well, he's
answer
doing that.
But now,
guys
but
wanna
look
keep
within
talking?
the world of the Incredibles, is Johnny Quest a live action series, or is it still a cartoon?
Oh.
I accept 2D cartoons as cartoons and 3D cartoons.
Agreed.
Okay.
Clutch Cargo
That's
is
my
59.
rule of thumb, personally.
Got it. All right. Well,
But if it's a 2D and a 2D, I accept that it's live action in that world.
That is really funny. I agree with that. I don't know why though. I don't know why I feel the same way, but I do.
Mhm.
Yeah. What if it's a 2D cartoon watching a 3D something?
Well, that's fucked up.
That's basically time travel.
Yeah. All right. Well, we probably want to start wrapping up pretty
Oh,
soon.
Do we have to?
I know there's there's a lot to discuss,
Yeah,
but
real
it's
quick.
also late.
what do you guys hate about Chris Lord? Real quick, just
Oh God. Do we have an hour?
well,
We'll make
We've
time
already
for
done
this.
an hour, so
Yeah.
let's
Burn.
sub podcast mini episode.
I never brought this up before, but Chris Lord did kill my parents in an alley in front of me as when I was a young boy.
Do you still have the pearls?
Were your parents trying to call?
No, Chris
someone to-
stole them and then hawked them.
oh,
And that's how he pays for this podcast.
It was weird when he invited me to be on it. I was like, "Are you sure you want me there?"
You
And
know
he's
what
like,
you did,
"Oh, I
right?
He
The
said-
first thing Chris Lord ever said to me was, "Do you ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight?"
Oh man.
so
good
I
times.
assume real quick, Cameron, with your Disney connection, and they're doing Pixar Fest. They got a new roller coaster themed around it. How
Mhm.
crazy is the theme park right now in terms of Incredibles 2?
It's not bad.
Well, so everything opens the June 23rd. Incredicoaster, Pixar Pier. We have
Is Incredicoaster what just a
Yes.
rebranding of that other coaster? Because
uh,
that coaster's crazy fun, but
It is
crazy.
Yeah,
crazy fun.
so it's the same track as Screamin', but it's
California Screaming.
Yes, it's the same. Sorry, it's the longest covered roller coaster. I want to say on the West Coast.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they might be in America, but
All right.
I haven't seen it yet. But what I think is going on, and this would be amazing if it is as you're going through the tunnels, I think it's video screens, and you're like going.
Is it gonna be that epileptic shot
Yes.
that they show in Incredibles 2?
Yeah, but I think you're gonna like Dash will be running beside you. You're gonna
Okay.
because
that's
you're
pretty
basically
cool.
That's
trying
fun.
to catch Jack Jacks.
Oh,
Oh, so I'm
that's
gonna
fun.
be like launched and everything. Like they haven't changed anything. They just branded it
Yes,
differently.
yes,
Like
it's the
literally
exact same
mechanics
ride.
of that
Which is good 'cause
of that
it's
roller
a
coaster.
Fun coaster.
Mhm.
It's
that,
a
that
fun
ride
ride,
is
like-
so underrated. I think.
Spoiler alert! I'm probably going to Disneyland next week.
I just
should.
went. I went last week.
Oh well, good for you two. Well, fuck my cool announcement. That was like, yeah, I'm going to Disneyland. It's gonna be fun.
We as
Like,
the
I was
Disney
just
community
fucking with-
welcome you into
Yeah,
our
hi,
land.
welcome. We're glad that you're here. Except
Mhm.
you can leave that bad attitude at home.
Did you
And
have
I
it-
was just dropping bombs on news information, and just apparently it just like it's whatever.
You're just about to sink into a
Uh,
puddle in your
Yeah,
chair.
so everything
Yeah.
opens. Everything opens this Saturday.
Oh, cool.
So they're opening. So there's basically like different mini. They're called neighborhoods for
Okay.
every Pixar film. So there's like the Wall-E neighborhood, the Up neighborhood.
Is that where I can get fat?
Yeah,
Is
oh
in
yeah.
the Wally neighborhood? Is that where all
That's
the
where you
concession
rent.
stands
that's,
are?
That's actually where you rent an electric wheelchair.
Oh, I wish that were true.
My friends and I.
No, I
we're-
think it is true.
My friends and I joke we're horrible people for this, but we see the people in the electric wheelchairs around Disney. We call them Wally cosplayers.
That'll be edited out for the podcast.
Again, I'd like to just say we're inclusive, like the official podcast apologist.
Did you have any of the treats, the unique treats they've created for Pixar Fest while you're there?
Well, unfortunately for me, I don't think many of the unique treats were are gluten free. Sadly, but they have a lot of great gluten free things I can have at the park.
Oh, do you
Which
get
is
like one
nice,
of the alien
But I didn't
macaroons?
see. No, I didn't even see those. I didn't see any of the crazy
they're
treats.
hidden.
They're
You
really
have, you
hidden.
have to
They're
go
hard to
back
find.
to the mediocre Pizza Planet.
Yeah, which I did.
Back by Space Mountain.
Mountain.
So you have
Which
to go
I d-
back to the original Pixar bullshit
and it's
Yeah.
to enjoy the fun new Pixar
I
bullshit.
will say
also
it's pretty, but it's $5 for a photo because
Right.
the macaroon wasn't great.
Well, and it's also kind of strange,
Yeah,
right? Because
sorry.
they're making California Adventures the one that's undergoing the big transformation, but they have the posters and stuff all over both places. Disneyland, which is like Pixar's taking over the rides, which is kind of a cute thing. But to be honest with you, if I didn't know Pixar Fest was going on, like we were there and I was all excited. I was like, "Oh, it's Pixar Fest!" Like I went and saw the sneak peek of The Incredibles 2.
Mhm.
And while I was there, which was very cool, seeing it in 3D with the
Mhm.
theaters, like actually like 4D because they use smoke and scents and stuff like that, which was very, very cool for the first 10 minutes of the film. But
it was super cool for the first 10 minutes.
they only showed you the first 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But it was
Yeah, they
so
show
I
you
thought
really
you were
other-
talking about in general of your experience.
Yeah, it's
After
great
that,
for the
it just
first
gets
10
real
minutes,
old.
and then you're like really over it. But it was really, really neat. But other than that sneak peek, I was literally wandering around, and Mike was like, "Where's the Pixar Fest?" And I'm like, "I think it's everywhere."
This is
This
Yeah,
it?
it is a
But like,
little.
there just wasn't. They really could have milked that, I think, more than they did. There was the parade,
Mhm.
which we saw part of. We saw part of the parade, but like in general, they didn't have like a bunch of Pixar characters around and like treats everywhere and like balloons. There wasn't any of that. We actually walked all the way through the wine, like the wine cellar, because
Mhm.
the front it made it look like there was something happening. So we walked all the way through it to the end, and I'm like, "Hi, where's the thing?" And they're like, "Oh." Well, sometimes they have the booth open, but I don't know when they're gonna get here, and it's not open right now. I was like,
Nice.
"All right, cool.
Yeah,
It isn't
so-
cool."
So basically, California Adventure has been turned into Pixar Land with notable exceptions.
Yeah, it's gonna be a mix. It's gonna be the Disney buyout properties park.
Okay, so Disney proper's in Disneyland, and all the
Yes.
subsidiary.
Yeah, so we
Content.
have like Cars Land, Bugs Land, and now Pixar Pier. But Bugs Land
It's going
is
to become.
Avengers. It's gonna
Mhm.
become Marvel Land. That
But
Wait,
everybody will
Bugs
be turned-
Land. That's like the children's section.
Yes.
Well, it's
It
all
was
gonna
like-
be Ant-Man.
that's
It's
fe-
just-
that felt
just
like
Ant-Man.
that felt like the one untouchable place.
right? Yeah, because now where are the kids gonna go? Disneyland, I guess. But
Where will the kids go in this entertainment
Are we
industry?
thinking of the children? Yeah, which is really funny because I brought that up again where I was telling my parents like, it's really hard to really focus on having kids when literally everything is more fun without kids, including Disneyland. Disneyland is so much more fun without children. And
Wait,
if you disagree with me right now and you're shaking your head and you're scoffing, go to leave your kids at the sitter and go to Disneyland without them, and then come back and tell me that it's not more fun.
That was my sister's Christmas present to me. Is she had a Disney full day pass that she bought when she was down here. Oh, maybe I'll get down, and she didn't. She's gave it to me. The most wonderful
It
thing.
is so much fun.
Because
And
I've gone with them. I've gone with my sister and her kids.
And I love kids, and it's fine.
They're
And you may
wonderful.
think it's great, but
Kids are
you know
wonderful.
what? Leave them at home and then go by yourself, and then tell me that it's not better.
It's
because it is.
100% better.
But
As a single man, I will
Yeah.
attest it is 100% better just being able to
just to go where you
caught,
want.
Yeah.
just have a beer in California adventure, and then
Yeah.
fucking just fast pass for the roller coaster.
It's the best. It's
wonderful.
so
With all due
fun.
respect, men like Trevor should not be allowed to go unwatched.
I got to vape in the smoking section of California Adventure. It was wonderful. I had a
High
great
life,
time.
man.
It was the high life.
But I think that, I
I'm looking
understand
forward
the,
to California
the
Adventure.
irony of being like, but where will the kids go when the answer technically should be everywhere? What are the adults doing here
Yeah.
without children? The answer is having a better time than you.
True. I will never bring
but-
my child there. I will only go by myself. And
You
if
should.
she wants to go, she
Yeah,
can
exactly.
turn 18 and go
She
herself.
can
You
pay
get
for
a job.
herself.
And that's right. She'll never go in with me.
That's a good rule.
Frank, is your daughter just for 5-6 summers just gonna work odd jobs? Just well, you got $25 this summer. Keep
right.
working.
There you go.
Keep working for that Disney ticket
I know- I know
because Daddy's
that-
not buying it for you.
She's going to be the only kid in Southern California whose parents did not take her to Disneyland.
That's right. But I'll
She
show you
took
how the-
herself to Disneyland.
I got a
and she
job at
appreciates it
Disneyland.
more.
That's right.
There's a 13-year-old girl who worked her way to Disneyland.
There you go.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
that
just-
whole-
You're
Get
making
her
your
a job
daughter
as a cast member.
self-sufficient.
Yeah.
You're a
I was
hero,
just gonna
Frank.
say, she's not going to go until she goes to audition as a princess.
It's a whole give a man a fish analogy, but for Disney.
It's a give the kid a crown or a scepter.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But teach.
Teach a kid to scepter.
Yes.
Teach a kid to buy a ticket to Disneyland.
Oh,
Don't go to Disneyland forever.
Oh man.
It's a good point to wrap this up.
All right, real quick. Over under what you think? How long it'll be before we see a sequel? More over under 5 years.
Oh, God. I'm going to say over 5.
I'm gonna go under.
Under.
Over, but just to 7.
I was going to say
7 years.
8. Yeah. Well, because I think
Half-Life.
8 is the shortest time we've had between movies, right? Between, I guess, Cars and Cars 2. No, that's, yeah, that was 4 years, 3
Yeah.
years.
Yeah, Cars 2 was the only proper sequel. That was Cars was a success, put it in the pipeline. Everything else is gestated and and
yeah,
waiting
what am
for
I
the
saying?
story.
Toy Story 2, or 3 years apart.
Yep, and I think that this one was so big. So I mean, it's set records already. So
Highest
big,
grossing
so quickly.
animated film, opening weekend of animated film of all time.
That's right, and I guarantee you that with the lead off, that even there, it's funny because I came in thinking oh, do you think that maybe there'll be a sequel? And it's been everybody just assumes there's going to be an Incredibles 3. When everyone has that assumption, they've already started writing it. I promise. And then with these records, they're just going to greenlight
We're also
everything.
in a Pixar world where they're so accepting of sequels.
Yep.
Because I think one of the reasons we had such a big break was 2000s. We didn't have any out. Cars being the exception. Every movie was an original movie.
But I also think part of that too is Brad Bird's aspirations to want to do live action
Mm-hmm.
because he did that for a
And
long
that
time.
didn't work out too well.
Hey,
It started-
Tomorrowland.
Hey,
It started off
stop
strong.
hitting on Brad
Hey,
Bird.
a Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol was awesome.
Yes.
Yes.
But then Tomorrowland
Let's just-
sucked.
I have a Tomorrowland poster because I wanted that movie to be so good.
We all wanted that
That's
movie
true.
to be so good, but it sucked.
So I mean, I feel like it comes down to Brad Bird. If he does he want to go back and try again in live action, or is he just cool? Yeah, I'll tell some more stories back here in this world.
How long until Marvel gives him a film?
Ooh, that's a better question than what I had because it seems like he's amped to do another one more so than last time.
Mhm.
It feels like last time it's just like I did what I wanted to do. I wanted to tell a cool, kick-ass superhero Silver Age story. And then now it feels like it's more of an itch to come back. I think it'll be less. But him doing a Marvel movie, that's interesting, Frank.
Imagine if they got Fantastic Four and they gave it to him. Would he do it? Would he want to do, or is that just
I
too?
think it's too close.
Yeah.
But also,
But-
another question
I'd be
to
down
kind
with
of
it.
bounce off of that is, with Lasseter now officially being ousted by Disney, and they don't really have a head anymore. Are they going to go to their trusted directors to kind of fill that void? Are they going to try and open it up to new creators?
Show me why. I guess what Pete Docter and another woman are going to be like the two people replacing him now, right?
Mhm.
But I see what you're saying is Lasseter, besides being a sexual monster, was a very powerful gravitation. Like he was a gravitational force in terms of his storytelling.
Mhm.
Whereas someone like Brad Bird is very much like an imposing figure, but he doesn't have like the weight of a Lasseter. And I'm not necessarily sure if Pete Docter or I forget the woman's name who's replacing him.
Typical.
Amanda Barnes.
Sorry, but I know Pete
Trevor's
Docter
on a
because he's done
fucking
his
horrible
Want to remind
role.
people
Yeah.
that the Ruby
Is inclusive.
Yep. Third time's a charm, guys. We are inclusive.
No,
We should
I
know,
d-
however, Trevor's been banned technically from the Ruby, and we had to sneak him in.
No,
here.
it's that Simpsons rule. Oh, Trevors have been banned. What Trevor's fine. No, but it's I think what Lasseter he was hefty in terms of what he brought to it, and was a more celestial being in terms of like what the presence he brought than like some like a Brad Bird or Pete Docter or any of the other creatives who have gone through that system.
Like Jennifer Lee. You're welcome.
you guys were all Googling it. I just sat here with three
But
dudes
even, like-
all on their phones.
But
trying to be
also like
discreet.
how like Favreau at Marvel
Yeah.
went 2 movies and dropped out, but Feige stayed around. Or like the Russo brothers are more gravitational pull. Like I think Pixar and Disney need to find someone like the Russo brothers. I think what they'll need to do is not fill the void with a Lasseter and someone who can fill that same weight, but basically put in 3 people who equal that will be the best thing. Because it's also like the best movies some of the best movies they did were farmed out outside of the Lasseter camp. Incredibles, like The Incredibles, it's such an amazing movie that it almost makes you feel like, was The Incredibles 2 like even that good? Like it's such a great movie. Like it just like that first movie is so good that like you can definitely have its weight filled by someone like Brad Bird, but he doesn't have the weight of Lasseter. I don't know. That's the end of my rant.
It's a good one.
Well, because he
Food for thought.
he also said, like Kathleen Kennedy had said, anytime you want to do a Star Wars film, you can do that.
Yeah.
And he said, like, nah, I'm not really interested in that. So I wonder if he'd feel the same way about Marvel too, where he's like, yeah, thanks for the offer, but
Yeah,
I don't know.
because
If
he's
I really
also.
wanna do
I
it."
mean, that's what he's doing right now. Is he's making better Marvel films.
Yes.
Yeah.
So like, I think he would kind of see through that of like, why would I do it with you when I'm already doing it fine on my own?
Yeah, I could do more mediocre stuff like Tomorrowland.
So, guys, can we just give him a break?
I mean, granted, George Lucas gave us Star Wars and also gave us that Tuskegee Airmen film too.
There, and Radioland Murders. Let's
And
not
Radio
forget
Land
that too.
Murders. American Graffiti,
Yep.
doesn't have the same weight. So I mean, like when someone doesn't have that juice, you develop.
He's 5 for 6, guys. Just like, give him a break.
He's 5 for 6. Wait,
But,
George Lucas or
that's
Brad
a
Bird?
big
Brad Bird.
whiff.
Mm,
That's a big whiff.
that is.
That's like he ground out, and then they got the other guy out on second who tried to
Double
steal.
play.
It was a double play, and it was a strikeout. That was a movie that was a strikeout, but turned into a double play.
This analogy has gotten a little convoluted.
Which Trevor doesn't really know
Little
sports.
bit.
I don't know
Yeah,
sports.
I love it.
Hey, the guy with the puck grounded out into
Hey.
home court advantage,
It's
basically.
the way Fry describes Bourne's ball.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's the drop the third pitch.
Oh,
And he's
oh,
trying
we
to
were one of those
steal. He's trying to steal
players.
first base.
All right, kids. I think it's about time
Yeah.
to say goodnight, to sing ourselves off.
That's true.
Where can I know you're about to open your mouth to sing, but
Nope.
that's our grand finale.
That's true.
The pre-finale.
Yes.
Where can they find everybody if they want to argue with us or to say great work or you know what? I loved Tomorrowland.
Thank you. Someone please contact us.
Guys,
Like,
if you feel
Tomorrowland
that way-
wasn't as bad as you remember.
This is how we're gonna.
Brad Bird's gonna hit you up on the horn tomorrow.
You get it.
We're gonna find you your soulmate right now. Where can they find you?
You can find my podcast, our podcast, Timm Talk, at. Oh, should I never do this?
They're on Instagram at Timm Talk.
I
Yeah.
should have like written you a text message. Like I know I'm not gonna be there.
Yeah, you can find us on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook. You can email us at timtalkpod@gmail. I think we're on YouTube for some reason, but you know, it's open. If you want to contact us on any of those platforms, it's at timtalkpod. You can find me personally if you want to see my art. It's at Cameron.Dexter. If you want to see my face, it's at CamDexter_adventures. And if you want to see my company that I do with three of my great friends, you can find that at Core Memories Co.
Yeah.
You
And
did
if,
it. Next.
if
You
you
did
guys
good.
if you guys
You
want to
did
yell
damn
at Chris
good.
Lord for not being here, he's at
Yes.
Lord Tafur.
Yeah, Lordifer on Twitter and Instagram.
Yep.
Mainly Instagram.
That's right. And
But if you want to yell at him without him knowing, you can yell at him on Twitter.
yeah, that's fun too. How about the old podcast of Two Worlds? Where can they find everything?
PO2W_Flash on the tweets.
And if you'd like to personally refute all of the charges I've made on this podcast, you can find me at TrevorCopter on Instagram and Twitter. I'm very responsive to direct messages
Slide
and
into them
comments.
DMs.
Slide right into those DMs, and I'll respond to you.
Great.
That's
Well, if they want to find Frank and I, you can email us at thenoviceandfrank@gmail.com.
True.
They can also reach us at Comic Book Novice, which is like my personal Instagram, but I share that with you.
Yeah, or just drive over to Amanda's place.
Sure.
Yeah, knock on the door.
Come say
What's
hi.
the address of that,
I
Frank?
usually
Well, it is.
I usually have tea going.
That's true.
Yeah, me personally at Comic Book Novice on Instagram or Twitter, and personal musings at Barnes Writes for non-comic book related things.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Barnes writes like writes with a pen. And where can they find you, Frank?
At Happy Go Jackie.
There it is. Guys, what a journey this has been.
It certainly has.
What a sequel.
14 years in the making.
That's
This
right.
podcast.
Aw. Guys, let's meet right back here in 14 years,
Oh
this
my
exact same
gosh.
place.
We ever gonna see each other after high school, you guys?
In the year
True.
2032.
Oh,
We're
God.
coming back to talk about Incredibles
That's
3.
not a real
This place is gonna be
year.
demolished.
What is the next time we're actually going to see each other? Was it
Ant-Man and the Wasp.
That's right.
Like
Just a
2
couple
weeks?
weeks.
4 weeks? Less than?
Is
It's
it
July
like that?
6th that
For your
comes out.
Oh, so
Pre-Comic-Con,
like 2
okay.
weeks.
Yeah.
We'll see each other real soon.
Is that when is that when the end of the drought? Is that when the drought starts? Is that for
Yeah, because
Ant-Man?
then the next one is what?
No, because then
No, it says Teen
Teen Titans
Titans.
Go to
Teen
the movies
Titans,
is end of July,
Teen Titans
There
is
you
the
go.
drought.
and then we have 2 months off
Till
until Venom in
Oh,
October.
God, that movie.
And
Oh
then
my God.
Aquaman in November, and then Spider-Man in December.
No,
I'm
they're
sure-
both in December.
They're both in December.
Yeah, no, because I was reading something about like Aquaman and everything like that, and the executive in charge of it was like very, very excited that Aquaman is the last Warner Brothers film of the year.
Okay.
He's like, oh, this temple status.
What's Thanksgiving this year then? Wreck-It Ralph is Thanksgiving this year. That's what I'm thinking of.
I mean, I'm down to talk about Wreck-It Ralph.
We did
yeah.
find
But
a
I'm also
reason to meet for
down-
this movie. Like this is not a comic book. This is off what we usually do, but I think it's good that we did it.
Me too.
I just want to
I
just
still have a
watch.
lot to say.
I just want to watch Wreck-It Ralph and not talk on a podcast about it, but talk to all you lovely people. So I say we should meet up for dinner or something after Wreck-It Ralph.
Friendsgiving.
Yeah, let's have a
Yay.
Friendsgiving unpodcasted.
Okay.
But then let's
So
also bring them
suck
up-
on that, listeners.
Listen, guys, if you want to pay to listen to us eat and talk, please,
We'll let you know.
we'll release it as special content or something like that. You'll just hear a lot of chewing.
We'll make plans during the Venom episode.
Oh boy, that's great.
Because that'll be better than talking about the Venom movie.
Great.
Making plans for Thanksgiving.
I'm glad that we're all
talking
going
about-
in unbiased and open-minded.
Spoiler alert.
I've seen the trailer.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening to us. We love you. You're the best. And let's sing ourselves out.
Sure. There's a monster coming in the darkness.
You think you're safe, but he's got a bag over his head, and it's scary when you hold it in your hand.
He's taking it off. Who is this mystery man?
It's Oogie Boogie.
Or we know him better as Chris Lord.
Chris Lord!
He's an evil man.
Oogie Boogie.
Killed my parents.
Chris
Oogie
Lord.
Boogie.
Chris Lord!
Blood on your hands.
Chris Lord.
Don't ever leave us again.
Chris Lord.